What can you actually evaluate with like the offensive linemen this time of year?
It is tricky. A lot of their day is going to be spent in fundamentals and technique and a lot of individual work. The D-line's the same thing. So they're really, you're having to focus on the fundamentals. You're having to look at that and evaluate and see them continue to progress. And then once we get to walk through, that's where they're going to get their team component of it. And again, that setting is a controlled tempo. We're trying not to put ourselves in a compromised position. We don't want, a bunch of physical contact. That's not what this time of year is for. So that is their evaluation of, are they assignment sound? Do they know what they're doing? And so, that's the way this thing is set up at this time of year. And so I think our guys are handling it really well.
And that drill with the bands where there's one coming off the wall and like the guys holding it, like what are you guys looking for with that? Like what is that?
I'll just say Nugent and those guys, they got as many bells and whistles for those guys as they can possibly have, and so they do a great job. I think it's really good, resistance bands and all the different things just to give yourself different work on strength and different things where you have resistance, because obviously you're not getting the physical resistance that you normally would have with an opponent. So they do a lot of creative things.
Kellen, what do you like about Chris Olave's game now that you've got a chance to work with him, and what are some areas where you can see untapped potential with him?
When he was coming out, what attracted us to us, I was in Dallas, you saw the skill set, you see the physical components. So he's got speed, he's got excellent hands, he attacks the football. I think that's the thing that jumps out on film. His just spatial awareness and understanding of football is at an incredible level. I remember we went through we do like a receiver test when we bring guys in, and I mean, he was, if not the best, one of the top guys we've ever had, as we went through that process there over all those years. And so it was very, very impressive, his ability to process football, see it from a big picture perspective. A lot of guys can know their assignment, but he understands how it all ties together. And again, he's showing it out there right now, his ability to line up in a number of different spots, which will allow us to move him around.
But speaking of lining up in different spots, Alante Taylor, is he on the outside, maybe obvious pass situation? It might be in the slot or depending on matchups? Or?
He will definitely provide a lot of flexibility for us, and I think that's one thing that, from a defense perspective, we've emphasized these guys being able to line up in multiple ways. Alante is one of the primary guys about that. His ability to play the star position, which is really the nickel position, as most people learn it, and the outside corner position. So he's going to be able to do both, and that's going to allow us to play some matchup football when we need to play matchup football. And I think he does a really good job. He's good against the run. He's a really, really good blitzer. I think that's shown up. And so he's got a lot of tools.
Do you think about pick your spots? Sometimes when you're asking a player to do multiple roles, I think make sure it's not like too much for that player.
Absolutely. I think you always start with one position for most guys and then expand from there. And that's always the balancing act. I think this time of year and through training camp, we'll push the mental side of this for some of these guys. I think they do need to be pushed and kind of broaden their horizon, and then you bring it back, and as you get into more game plan specific stuff, it becomes really tight, very specific, and allow our guys to be confident when it comes to real game time mode.
Marcus Yarns, undrafted free agent. What do you like about him? That obviously in the draft, were you guys surprised about that? And two, with him being an undrafted free agent, does he have to do something extra than when he drafted his own?
We talked through him through the draft process. We were really, really interested in him from the draft perspective. His background, he's played a lot of different positions, so he has a really diverse background, and we feel like his ability to grow in the running back room, just because it's somewhat new to him, is going to be more leaps and bounds compared to other guys who've been in that position for a long time. And so he's got a great feel for the game. He's got, we feel like the weight room with Ted and those guys is going to be a great growth opportunity for him to continue to develop. And he was an 8th rounder, as I like to call him, and those guys will hop in here. And once you're in this building, whatever happens. You just got to get in the room, and then it's on from there. So we're really, really excited about him.
You talked about the speed of Olave, but adding all of that with the versatility with him and Shaheed, and presumably Cooks as your top 3. What excites you about having those 3 as your main pass catchers?
Yeah, I really like the experience of all 3 of those guys, and certainly we have some depth that has some experience as well. And so we feel like it's a deep group, a group that has a lot of experience. They really understand football at a really high level, which I think really excites us. Our ability to play them in a number of positions, play matchup football, and obviously the speed factor will be something we'll try to create more and more opportunities for those guys.
Last week I asked about off-platform throws. I know Tyler kind of made one today, kind of slipped to his left and threw one. As somebody who played in the league and is coached and knows the speed, do you Do you like that and say let it rip, bro, or do you kind of cringe thinking you got to be careful doing stuff?
No, I think you got to practice those situations. You know, certainly any quarterback, if we can be within our base, under control, we would love that every single throw. That doesn't happen in the NFL. You got to be able to throw off platform and in different goofy positions. I think you can see a lot of the drill work that Scott does with these guys. You know, using bags and dummies and different things that they got to navigate, put them in positions where their feet aren't set, and they still got to get into the posture and get into their ability to throw at those different arm angles. So you know, it's been great for those guys.
What have you thought of the defensive line since arriving here? You know, last year obviously they were second worst in run defense. Obviously you weren't here yet, but what's your confidence level that group can perform at a high level, and what have you seen from them so far?
They've done a nice job. I think Bo, Jay, you know, BY, you know, they got three of the best in the league you can possibly have from a coaching perspective. And so we feel like that group's going to be able to develop really, really well. Guys that were here, we certainly added some pieces via trade, free agency, and the draft. And so we feel like we got some depth there that we're excited to let these guys roll. And obviously a lot of their evaluation comes in training camp just because that's when the pads come on and you get to evaluate that. And obviously the run game is going to be a huge factor of that on both sides of the football.
Kellen, speaking of traditional sizes and speeds and stuff like that, I know we've made a lot of 3-4 versus 4-3, but when you see these defensive ends that you have, Chase Young, Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, Isaiah Foskey working on the edges, how hard is that to incorporate into, you know, I know Brandon in the past has worked with a lot of 240, 250 pound ends and stuff. Is that a natural transition, or?
I think their number one objective, they're edge rushers. Their job is to rush the quarterback, and we're never going to lose sight on that. That's the number one priority and objective of that position. I think our guys are creating a little bit of diversity and you know, different tools in their toolbox. Their ability to play some coverage game on occasion, you know, just as change-ups. And I think that's going to allow us to create matchups for some other guys. You know, whether you're blitzing linebackers, now you get, you know, DeMario and Pete and those guys. Now they're able to rush the passer and play against maybe a favorable matchup against a running back. Now it allows those guys to play coverage, and I think they've handled it really, really well. That's a benefit of the setting of this is 7-on-7. We can get those guys to get used to some of that coverage components, and so you know. But again, we're never going to lose sight on those guys are really good edge rushers, and they're going to rush the passer.
I know it's a limited sample size you've got to work with them, but anything you see in Chase Young or Carl Granderson where coverage is coming kind of natural to them?
It's definitely popped up. 7-on-7, they've done an excellent job. They've covered, you know, they're attacking the football. I think they're creating habits like a linebacker, which is really good. Chase had some great examples. Grando's had some great examples. You know, I think it's been definitely shown throughout this whole process.
How do you think
in your experience calling plays in the NFL, is teaching the RPO game like changed, maybe gotten a little easier, just considering how much of that is used in college football now? I mean, like Spencer ran like his entire college career.
I think there's definitely some familiarity for these guys in the RPO. We have these RPRs where your ability to, you know, play the read game and play the throw game and make those decisions, because there is the one thing with a lot of those plays is there's some that are very, you know, defined, and then there's a lot that kind of live in the gray, and there's a decision factor that you kind of have to have reps and experience on, and you know, it's not exact science with it, whether you know, do you have the advantage to throw it, should you hand it off, and these guys who've done this a bunch of times over the last few years, certainly through college. Tyler was another example. Tyler, you know, ran a ton of these, you know, even at Louisville, and so you know, these guys got a lot of experience on it, which I think will be great for us.
Who's your best paintball player?
It's a great question. Pete was pretty good. Trying to think who, you know, Bink had some good moments. He tended to get out fast. We had a bunch of guys, but yeah, it was fun. So.
Did you participate?
I did participate. We got second.
Are you a good paintball player?
I'm not.
Do you have any welts or bruises anywhere?
Everyone's got a couple. Yeah, everyone's got a couple. We yeah. No injuries. No, we're good.
Could you expand on the story you're talking about, Chris? I'm assuming it was the pre-draft process when you were in.
It was in Dallas. Yeah.
Just like, what is that? Is it a drip? Like meeting entail? Like, Well, what do you?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in 2022, Robert Prince is our receiver coach in Dallas, and so during the evaluation process, sometimes what you'll do is you'll install, and we do this for just about every position, even right now. Obviously, when we went through the draft process, you like to install some portion of your offense or some plays to that player, coach it to them. You may go about your day the rest of the day in some other fashion, watch some film, meet some other people, and then bring them back and see how the recall is, and basically Robert gave him a blank sheet with just the offensive line, and basically it was like, hey, we went through 8 plays this morning, let's recite those, and he goes in there and draws it, and I mean he drew it incredibly well, and drew it like you'd dream any player to do it, and like a coach, and so every detail went into every single player, and so it was impressive. I remember Robert kind of showing it to me and being like, this is different. This isn't a normal review.
This thing sounds dumb, but do you take the paper back so you can't keep it all day long?
Usually they come back to us. Yeah, usually we get to grade it, and we'll see.
What kind of impact has Bo Davis made with that D-line? You kind of talked about it a little bit there, but what have you seen from him so far?
Bo's been excellent. Bo's been around this game for a really long time. He has great connection with the players. He gets the best out of them, and you can certainly feel that. And we feel very fortunate to have him. He's been awesome.
How has Devin Neal really been developing since coming in and the first couple of weeks of OTAs after rookie minicamp?
Done a great job. You can see that his feel for the game, really high level. Obviously see some of the pass game stuff that's shown up in 7-on-7, and I think one of the things in our walkthrough setting that some people lose sight on from a running back perspective is how hard the pass protection is. And he's picked up some blitzes, just in that walkthrough setting that you can tell, his brain's clicking really, really well, and he has a great feel for that. And so that's a huge part, because a lot of those younger guys, that's usually their challenge to get on the field, is their ability to play in the pass protection game, and he's done a great job.
About
Coach,
10
deep balls to touchdowns, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Bub Means. I know it's only 7-on-7 and there's no rush, but the ease which he throws those deep balls, it's very impressive.
Yeah, it was a great throw, beautiful. I thought both those guys did a great job.
Was the division with Vernon Broughton always like a 3-4 defensive end? I know he played kind of all over the place.
Yeah, he'll be able to play within that group, and so obviously his versatility, I think, was one of the attractive pieces to us. They played in a number of spots at Texas. That's the way they played. Bo obviously had some exposure, and so some background with him, so we felt really, really good about it, and he's hopped in there and done an excellent job.
Trevor Penning looked like he kind of held that left guard spot. Is that indicative of him doing well there, or are there just rotations that we have?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously he's done an excellent job. I mean, a transition is never easy for anyone, and so the more reps you get at that spot, the more comfortable you're going to be. I think we've had a couple of guys who kind of Tolly going to the right and Trevor going back to the left. Those guys have hopped in there and done an excellent job, and so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for those guys, but we've done it early enough that gives them a ton of reps through this process, and then we'll be able to continue to grow through training camp.
As OTAs go on here, have you seen Ted Rath either alter his plan to what you guys are doing, or I know you shouted him out last week, how have you seen it? And is he any different this week, or how's he gone out installing this?
Yeah, Ted does an excellent job, continue to grow through this process. Again, the practice component of it, 7-on-7, somewhat competitive. Everything else is more teaching phase. And so we got a lot of time still to develop from a physical standpoint. And so they're still working hard in the weight room. They're doing all that stuff. Ted does a great job of keeping a pulse, tracking these guys from a number standpoint, how much volume, how many yards are they traveling, how fast are they going. And that all allows us to make little adjustments here and there on the practices and then the daily schedule, just to make sure we're getting the most out of these guys and allowing them to recover still so that they can go for it.
With the Penning position change, how far back did that proposal go? Was it before the draft, after the draft? And could you say who are some of the voices that were spearheading that discussion on the staff?
It was like anytime you come somewhere new, you're continuing to get to know the players, and so that's a process. You just got to get to know them, spend time watching them on film, getting to know them as people. Certainly we had discussions as far as how we can handle the offensive line from a fitting everyone in there standpoint, and then really the decision didn't certainly happen until we were able to get Kelvin through that process. And so once we got Kelvin, then we were able to kind of talk through what's the best way of transpiring here. And so those guys were great about it. They did an excellent job. Obviously, we're going to talk through this as a collaborative group, and so certainly, the offensive line coaches, Doug, talking with personnel guys just to make sure we're all on the same page and seeing the same vision. So it's been great.
And because Penning has, his physicality obviously is on tape. And does that make it possible to discern before full contact practices whether this transition is really going to work, or do you still need to see it all through training camp and preseason on?
We feel great with where he's at. I think he's progressing really, really well. He's done an excellent job of just hopping in there. Again, it's a little bit of a new position for him, but he's in a similar stance that he's been in most of his career on the left side. That helps. And then I think the physicality, especially in training camp, is going to just pop, once he continues to embrace it and just go for it.
How much should Banks factor into that? Like, wanting to see him specifically at left tackle first versus, you could have had Olave be the left tackle and be the right tackle. I guess how do you guys arrive at let's try Banks at left tackle and Olave at right?
Yeah, it's a really good discussion, and there's a lot of components to it, and certainly as you go through the draft, there's a lot of scenarios that can play out. We know how drafts work, and so certainly we had made no decisions at that point. Kelvin's done an excellent job at left tackle to play at Texas and play at that high of a level. Tolly's played it right at Oregon State for a long time. Felt like there was a potential transition there to allow us to get the best guys on the field, and Trevor we just saw as just a physical football player, and feel like we got a chance to get him at guard, and so felt really good about this combination, and we'll just let it play itself out. We feel like we got some young guys behind them that have had some experience, Landon, Dylan, some of these guys who've competed, they'll be ready to roll too, and so we feel like we just got a really, really talented group, really deep group. Again, it's got to be one of our strengths of our team is this group.
Going back to Devin, you talked about his pass protection. How much of a hurdle is that for a young back to really get through, and then how much does that expedite his chances of getting on the field early?
The pass protection part is really, really challenging. There's a lot of rules, a lot of responsibilities. It becomes much more of there's a physical component of pass protection, but the mental side is really what's challenging for a lot of these guys, just because there's so many. These rush plans, these blitz plans on third down are really, really challenging, and so they have to have a great understanding of where the offensive line's going, what their responsibilities are, and he's done an excellent job of it. And I think a lot of times when these guys can handle that, that's kind of their guide to give them more opportunities to get on the field. There's more trust with them. We got to protect these quarterbacks in those situations, and running backs usually have a big part in that.
What are you looking for from the wide receiver position to contribute to the other side of the conversation? What are you looking for from the wide receivers to contribute as run block?
It's a big part of it. Receivers got to be able to run block. They got to be able to get to safeties. They got to be able to get ourselves one-on-one with corners on the edges. That's a lot of times what run games are about. And they got to be physical with it, and so they're doing a really good job. I think there is a mental component that they got to understand, but they've embraced it.
Is there like you're trying to find willingness just as much as you're trying to find? I mean, obviously effectiveness is always the preference, but are you looking just as much as a willingness to contribute there as anything else, or
Certainly that's a part of it. There's a mental side of it, understanding your assignment, and then there's the physical component, which comes down to fundamentals, the finish part of it, the play style. There's a lot that goes into that, and those guys, I think our guys have done an excellent job. They just got to embrace it, go for it, and it'll lead to big things.
Do you feel that, there's a lot of conversations about kind of like the size of the wide receiver room and things like that. As part of the conversation we were just having today, do you feel good about where that is?
Yeah. I think, size, yes, that's a part of it. That naturally helps you maybe physically from being a good run blocker, but some of the best ones we've had aren't the biggest guys. So
I know your focus is football, and obviously you're working a lot, but talk to you about how you're adjusting in your family. We had rolling blackout last week, and I think we've had flash flood warnings every day. Do you feel like kind of adjusting to New Orleans, and did your wife say Devin Rand's alive?
No, it's great. It's great, except for the lightning siren that goes off every 15 minutes seems like at the facility. But other than that, no, it's been great. So it's been a lot of fun. We've embraced it. We've really enjoyed it. I think our kids have had just a smooth, easy transition. The people part of it's really special. How quickly you're embraced and how quickly they can transition into something. And so it's been special.
Do you find yourself being recognized in public around the city?
There's times I probably haven't been out as much as traditional, but we got a lot of work to do and get everything ready.